Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 2 in computerized accounting. And I'm not going to go through every one of the transactions. Rather, I just want to point out a few things in QuickBooks because this is the first chapter that you'll actually be doing some transactions. I'll also point out some things that people tend to do incorrectly. So I'll start by sharing my QuickBooks window, and I've opened up Kristen Reyna. Make sure I'll wait until it shows. There we go. You should be able to see that now. And Chapter 2 is about the vendors and the vendor center. And you can use the icons that show up on your screen. I always close that window. I prefer the menu, kind of old-fashioned. So I'm going to choose vendors and the vendor center, which is the very first thing. So it opens up my vendor center, and it shows all of my vendors and so forth. Lots of things that you can do here. That's where I normally start. You can enter transactions. So even from this area, I can enter bills, which is something that I'm going to do. You can also come up here, vendors to vendors, enter bills, or you can enter bills from those icons that I've already closed. So let's see here. In the enter bills, I want to, I've actually already entered the very first one that shows up in it's Minneapolis, what is it, Minneapolis Electric and Gas. I'm going to hit the back button. That's okay, that's clear. There we go. We'll hit the back button. And that brings up the last thing that I entered, which is kind of cool. So if you know that you've been entering bills today and you made a mistake on one, just hit the back until you find it. If you've entered 50, that might take a while. But this shows the bill that I've already entered. And I hit save and new to get to a new one. And I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now, once you enter it, it shows up down here. So I'll hit Minneapolis Electric and Gas, and there's my bill right there. If I go like this, it drills down to the actual bill, the same thing that I just showed. That's kind of cool. So the process for payables, you'll remember from Accounting 1, enter bills, and that makes a journal entry to debit the expense. In this case, it would debit the utilities expense and credit accounts payable. Then when you pay that bill, you debit accounts payable and credit cash. Hopefully you guys all remember that. So there are two different ways you can process transactions. You can enter the bill and then pay bills, or you can just write a check. If you write a check, and I want to, you'd go up to vendors, actually writing checks is in banking, write checks. Vendors, you enter bills or you pay bills. So what you don't want to do is enter a bill and then go to write checks to write that check, because it's going to create a different journal entry, and you'll be a little bit messed up. So I'm going to switch here, and I'm going to share a file with you. This is a demo for those journal entries. So when you enter bills, debit the expense or asset, whatever it is that you bought, and credit accounts payable. Then when you pay bills, you debit accounts payable, getting rid of that payable, showing that you don't owe that anymore, and crediting cash. When you write checks, you debit the expense and credit cash. So if you make a mistake and you skip this pay bills, you've entered the expense twice, and you skip the pay bills and you go to write checks instead. You've got the expense in there twice. You've got a payable. It says you've got a payable, and then you credited your cash. So you're making a mistake if you do it that way. So I just want to make sure that you realize enter bills, pay bills, or go in and write checks, and it will tell you received a bill and wrote the check immediately. That means you're skipping this whole process and you're just writing checks. If you've received, they're not paying them today, then you just enter bills, and then on bill pay day, you pay the bills. That is the biggest error that students tend to make, is when they enter things the wrong way. So sometimes in the case problem, it will say received a bill and paid, or yeah, received telephone. No, that's not the one. I'm trying to find one that says that, and I don't happen to see it off the top of my head. But what students will quite often do is they'll enter the bill and then they'll go to pay bills to pay it, and it creates two journal entries instead of the one journal entry that we're looking for. And I know that that seems a little bit nitpicky, but the book really wants you to do it the way they said to do it. So even though you can get there the other way, your journal will be incorrect if you do it the wrong way. The best way to correct that is to delete those transactions and enter it the way it was supposed to be entered. Now, in real life, deleting is a little bit frowned upon. You're better off doing a reversal and then doing it the right way. I think there are different. This chapter talks about different ways that you can do corrections, which is awesome because in the community, when we have community members, accountants come to advisory committees, they tell us that the number one thing that they want, not number one, but one of the very important things they want is for students to be able to correct their errors when they make them, because you're going to make errors. You've made lots of errors, and you remember, if you've had me before as an instructor, I will recognize your errors because I've made every single one of them before. So I'm going to go back to the sharing menu and share QuickBooks again. Find it. Here we go. That should be there any second. Oops, wrong one. That's what we call our infinite windows. I need to stop sharing that. Oh, and we'll go to application. We'll try that again. Any minute now. There we go. So this is where I left off. I'm going to go ahead and close or minimize this vendor maintenance window. And I'm going to go to reports. I'm going to choose accountant and taxes and a trial balance. This is something that's really cool. And we're in 2022 in this textbook, so I'll go. Okay. Notice how I didn't use, this is flickering. I didn't use the drop down. That's so much slower for me. I don't, this is bothering me. I hope it's not bothering you too much. I just entered 07/22/2022, no slashes, no, and it knew what to do. But also one thing, let me try that again. I'll do it a little bit slower this time. Reports, accountant and taxes, and then trial balance. I tabbed, I didn't mouse over, I tabbed over 07/22/2022. Whoops. And then hit tab, and it took it. I'm going to bring that down a little bit because I can't see it very well. And it's still, this is bothering me just a little bit. So on accounts payable, I know that there's something there that I want to look at. So I'm going to, if I want to know exactly what's in accounts payable, I double click that, and that's showing me my transactions in accounts payable. And I think, huh, what is this $350? I can double click it, and it takes me over to the enter bills screen. And then I can get my reference number, I can get all my information that I need. So notice here that I put you can see the little Z for zoom. That's when you can zoom. And just about anywhere on here, you can see that Z. I'm going to close this window. Over here, you can't zoom on a name, but you can zoom on an amount. And I'm going to close this because that flickering is bothering me. All right, so we'll end the closing. Those are the main things that I want you to know for Chapter 2. Remember that you submit your reports to CIRRUS. And again, this is the first submit I'm doing it this way with CIRRUS. So hopefully this is going to work out well. If I find that the report that it's messing up your grades a little bit because of the CIRRUS reports, if it's finding errors that aren't there or something like that, I will make adjustments. Please don't panic. If you see a 0, just go back and try to fix it. If you can't figure it out, submit it the way it is. But please, please give it a try, because you don't want to keep those zeros if there really was something. Remember, if you've got all zeros in CIRRUS and I can't find any errors in your reports, then I'll make adjustments for it. So you guys are kind of my guinea pigs this semester. The last time I tried this was with Snap, and if you guys have used Snap in the past, you know that it wasn't always that dependable, and I bailed on the whole submitting of those files. So we're going to give this a whirl this time, and so please be patient with me, and remember that that I'm pretty flexible. I will adjust anything that I is wrong or is hurting you that shouldn't be. So if you have any questions, let me know.